That's right. We got some goodies. So I just got back from the tackle store, went to my buddies over at Southern Reel Outfitters, which is where Scott Rook, former Bassmaster Elite Series pro, he now manages there, and picked up some baits. It's the first week of April. I'm going to start doing this more often. I think it's fun. Kind of, I don't even know when I go into the store sometimes what I'm gonna buy. So I bought some baits. I'm gonna pour them out and show you exactly what I bought, why I bought it, how I plan to use it, and why I like certain things about it. So hope you guys enjoy this. But we're about to break down what I found at the tackle store. So first I wanted to take a second to preface that I've got plenty of tackle. I mean, I've got boxes and bags full of soft plastics. I've got a box full of hard baits. Plenty of baits in my boat right now. So this isn't necessarily like I've got nothing, and if you're gonna go buy something, this is what you buy. So, but rather this is what I think that I might be running low on, or something that I ran out of a color on, or you know, maybe I'm catching them really good on something, and so I wanted to get more of it. So this is what it is. Went to the local tackle shop, and I'm gonna pour out exactly what I got, and I got the receipt to prove it. Not that I'm going to show you the receipt, but I'm going to. I just poured it all out. So I've got a couple baits here. Just this was a small purchase. This was just $30 or so, and this is what I got. So one thing that I love this time of the year, and these first couple baits are very similar. I love throwing a swim jig. You have water willow in Arkansas that is, you know, freshly grown, or it didn't quite die off last year from the winter, if it wasn't that bad of a winter. So the grass is lower, it's a little more sparse, but it's still there, and fish still like to get up in it, which oftentimes there might be some slime, or there might be some shorter grass growth. You can't see the bedding bass as well. So one thing I like to do is cover water with a swim jig. So I was running low, didn't have many bluegill colors, so I bought two 3/8 ounce swim jigs. This one is bluegill, and this one is warmouth. They're very similar. One's got more chartreuse than the other. This one's got a little bit more chartreuse. That's warmouth compared to that one. But those are the two bluegill colors. So I throw a lot of white for swim jigs. I've got a couple black and blues. But it's one of those things where whether I'm kind of shaking it Alabama style and cracking my rod tip and just getting it to kind of pulsate through the water, or if I'm just straight reeling it and maybe have a swim bait trailer on it where it's just a steady reel. I don't have many bluegill ones, a lot of white ones, and then like I said, black and blue. Bluegill is going to be a great imitator this time of the year. Bluegill are rampant in the shallows. They're the biggest predator to bass during the spawn, as bass are spawning, laying eggs, and getting up shallow. Bluegill are going to be pestering them, and that's why you often see bass maybe dart around the shadows, and you can't necessarily, you don't know where they're located at, but you can see a bed, and they're just darting around, chasing off bluegill from the eggs they laid, or the bed they're trying to make, or the freshly hatched fry that they're dealing with. So swim jig, very key. Two other baits, or one other bait in two different colors that is very similar, is going to be a speed worm. So this is an ultra vibe speed worm, and I've got two different colors. I've got a tilapia color, and I've got a watermelon seed. Now I've got black and I've got green pumpkin in my box already. I had those two colors on my last trip, and I thought maybe on certain days I might want a little bit different deal. So tilapia, I'm going to pull it out of the package, but this is what it looks like. Tilapia is a pretty good color. It's kind of a mixture. I'd say a mixture of watermelon and green pumpkin. If you can see that, I'm going to put my hand behind it. It's a little bit of a mixture of watermelon, green pumpkin. It's got some purple in it, and then it's got a lot of flake in it. And you can see in the flake in the tail, it's got black flake, it's got blue flake. I believe it's got like bigger blue flake, and then there's also like a purplish flake, but it's much smaller. So it's more of a dot. I don't know if you guys can see that, but big black flake, big blue flake, small of the purple flake, and that's kind of a tilapia color. When you hold it up, maybe not to the sun, but just in general, it's got a little bit of a reddish, green pumpkin, purplish hue to it. It's kind of a solid color, but I bet in the sun, looking up, it's going to be, you're going to see a lot of that flake really pop. So that's just a different color that I didn't have that I'll try out, but it probably imitates a bluegill real well. You know, it's got the chartreuse, the oranges, the reds, the yellows, just the different color is going to be, it's going to imitate that, you know, that bluegill when they're going through different color changes. So another color I got, watermelon seed. That's just a great color overall. And I've got them in the mag speedworm. So this isn't just the speedworm, it's the mag speedworm. You could put a bigger hook in it. You know, you can bite it down some and it won't be so long. I'll hold it up this way. You can bite it down some so it's not so long, but it's a bigger one. You could put a beefier hook in it. And I'm going to do something very similar with a speedworm as I would a swim jig. I'm going to reel that through that scarce grass, and I can cover a lot of water with it. I could just put it on an 1/8 ounce or a 1/16 ounce weight, peg that, and just keep it reeling, and it's going to act like a swim bait or a swim jig, and it's one that works really well around grass. That's why it's such a good Florida bait and things like that. So, and what's also good about a speed worm, as we've seen from Cody Huff, the guy who won the college bracket in 2019, made the Bassmaster Classic for this year in 2020, Cody often likes to flip it. Not only can you throw it on a Carolina rig or flip it, but you reel it as well, and that's the primary deal, reeling it, but you can do other things with it as well. So it's going to be a versatile bait, whether I put it on a big Texas rig, Carolina rig, whatever it is. I can even swim it back, and if I wanted to, you know, while fishing it, just pitch it around. I can do that as well. Maybe there's some holes in the grass and whatnot, but that's a good one. And if you reel it high enough in the water column, it's almost like a topwater strike. It's like a subtle whopper plopper. It's going to just be kind of buzzing along the top of the surface, not making a bunch of commotion, but making enough to draw some fish. So those are 4 of the 6 things I purchased. I've got a couple more. I've got a Magnum Rage Bug from Strike King, and I've got the Okeechobee color. If you don't know what Okeechobee craw is, I'm going to open it up and show you. Okeechobee craw is kind of a double-sided color. One side of the bait is one color, one side is the other, and that would be a kind of like a blue sapphire and then a green pumpkin. So it's a good mixture. You can flip it around. It just kind of, when it maybe falls through the water, it maybe twists and turns, and it's going to just show a different illusion every time it falls, depending on which way it does it. It's got, you know, 4 arms on it, and you just pluck those apart. But I picked the Magnum because my buddy, former Elite Series pro Dennis TJ, he told me when I was down at Gros Savant, he said, man, if you're going to flip mats, you're going to want to do it with the Magnum Rage Craw, or Magnum Rage Bug, over the regular Rage Bug, because the big hook that you're putting it in, bringing it in and out of grass, that is going to tear up normal baits, but the Magnum one is bigger, thicker. You're going to be able to put a bigger hook in it and not worry about tearing through it without catching a fish. It's one thing to tear your bait after landing a fish. We're all cool with that. But if you tear a bait just by pitching it, just by trying to pull it out of grass, that's just a waste of a bait, and you don't want to do that. So there's 5 of the 6 baits. And then the last one, it's a bright one, vibrant one. This is a methiolate. If you've never heard of it, it's spelled merthiolate. Just say it real quick. It's methiolate trick worm. And what you're going to do with this, you're going to take just an EWG, you know, just a offset round bend hook, and this is kind of a mixture of just every bright color. It's not pink because it's not bubblegum. Bubblegum's its own color, but it's just a bright, gonna get, you know, attract you. You're gonna look up if you're a bass, and it's just gonna be something that's just skirting along. It almost looks like a bloodline. You know, if a shad or a bait fish is bleeding, it's just gonna look like a trail of that coming through, and it even could look like an actual worm. I don't know why there would be worms on the surface. Sorry for my phone buzzing. But methiolate trick worm, what you're going to do, you're going to put that on an offset worm hook, EWG, not the long shank one. In fact, let me see if I've got one right here. I've got one somewhere around here. There it is. So you'd put one on a hook like this. Let me cut this off. So you'd put your trick worm. You could put it on both sized hooks. You can either put it on a longer offset worm hook, or you could put it on the EWG worm hook. And what you're going to do, the way you're going to fish that, you can either throw it on a light bait caster, or a spinning rod is where a lot of people throw it. And what you're going to do is it's just going to be a floating worm. It's just going to be a worm up there. You're going to throw it weightless, just like a Senko would, but you're going to throw it weightless, and you're kind of going to just reel it and give it just a few twitches and pops. And that thing's just going to dart almost like a fluke, but it's going to be a longer profile, 6.5 inches, and it's just going to kind of dart and pause and whatnot. And bass, when they're around the spawn, bass, and when I say around the spawn, not only is it spawn, but it's also the immediate post-spawn when they're guarding. That is a great way to catch them. They're kind of roaming around. That's going to kind of come darting above their head. It's going to be an easy meal, one that they're going to get when they're trying to just feed back up after the stress of the spawn. So there is what I bought from the tackle store, straight out of the bag. And I'm going to use these out on the lake. I wouldn't have spent my money on them if I wasn't going to. So, yeah, this is the first week of April in Arkansas. It's always important to say where you are, because fish are doing everything. Fish are doing a lot of different things around the country. But first week of Arkansas in April, and I'm going to throw a couple of those baits. Obviously, you've got your other techniques that prevail. A chatterbait still works. Buzzbait bites starting to pick up around this time of the year. Wacky rig Senko or stick bait, wacky rig stick baits. Those things always work. I've got plenty of those things in the boat. But those are some things that I was running low on or needed to get, wanted to experiment with. So that's why I went to the store and bought them. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to do a lot more of these. It's pretty easy for me to shoot. I'm just going to drive home from the tackle store and show you what I bought, why I bought it, and then hopefully in future videos I'll be able to reference me catching some fish on these. So peace out till next time.